SiriusXM keeps truck drivers informed and entertained with coast-to-coast coverage across the U.S. and Canada. Listen to what you love from anywhere on the road with 24/7 ad-free music plus sports, news, talk, and comedy. Hear your favorites on every haul for just $6.06 a month. Sign up at SiriusXMFleet.com. Welcome to The Long Haul, the podcast dedicated to empowering small carriers and owner-operators to drive their business forward. I'm your host, Adam Wingfield, bringing you insights from industry leaders, real-world success stories, and strategies to help you navigate the road to profitability. Whether you're just getting started or looking to take your fleet to the next level, this is the show where trucking meets opportunity. So buckle up, it's time to go the distance. Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting edition of the Long Haul Podcast brought to you by Freightways Playbook. And today, as always, I'm super excited to run my mouth and have a conversation around trucking. I am super excited today because I'm bringing in a young man who is really, really passionate about what he does, and he's going to bring some really good insights to the listeners today, just based on the value he's been bringing to the community so far. He's a longtime industry just person in the industry. Has been a driver for over 20 years. I had the opportunity to connect with him in a couple of different places, and one of the places I connected with him actually was at a carrier summit, broker carrier summit. So I thought that was pretty cool. Had a conversation with him, and we hit it off ever since. He's an owner-operator, CEO of Anchor Reliable Transport, none other than Brian Woodring. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
Brian, thanks for taking the time out. I know every day is valuable and every moment is valuable. I know you're having some things done. And today I really wanted to dig into the one thing that you're known for and that a lot of people can appreciate is some of those things that are top of the mind to you is just, fraud and really what you're doing to really kind of help that within the industry. But before we get started, man, I want you to take the clock back from me. I want you to wind it all the way back, and I want you to tell me how you all got started in this thing. Where you from, man? And for those who don't know you, let's share a little bit about your background and what got you into trucking.
Sure. Thank you. So I do own Anchor Reliable Transport. I started my authorities about 20 months ago now, but I cut my teeth in 1998 when I got my CDL and went to work for Transport America. Back when the owner was alive, it was a really good company. I worked for them for about a year. I got on the dedicated account with FedEx. You had to really prove yourself in order to be on that account because FedEx, the policy with TA was if you were late, 5 minutes late on the load, TA ate the load. FedEx didn't have to pay for it. So you had to really prove your service before you get on it. So it was a really good stepping stone to be on that freight for them. Became a driver trainer for them. They actually had a training school up in Eagan, Minnesota. I spent 2 weeks in the training school. I started training drivers. After a while, being out on the road, you know how it is. You kind of get tired of being out on the road. You want to be home. So I got off the road and I came home and went to work for a local company in the Indianapolis area, R&D Transport. So I ended up hauling gas. So I was hauling diesel, jet fuel, kerosene, avgas, doing those kinds of deliveries. So I spent most of my time running tankers, but it all started for me in dry van, and now I'm back to dry van due to the insurance costs. So 1998 was the CDL, been training, running tankers. I don't have any experience in flats, but pretty much everything else.
What made you, where did that passion come to decide to move from just a driver to an owner operator? What really triggered that?
I kind of just fell into it. I really bought a trailer. It kind of started with me buying a semi-trailer at an auction for storage. My father does a lot of woodworking, and there's a lot of wood around the house, oak and walnut and stuff like that. And it's taking up a lot of space. So I bought a trailer to kind of store everything. And I thought I could borrow some friends' trucks. I am a truck driver. I know a lot of people with trucks. It's like, hey, man, let me borrow your truck to go hook to this trailer. And everybody's like, yeah, that ain't happening. So because I couldn't find a truck to move the trailer, I ended up buying a truck to move my trailer. So I bought a day cab. And then it's like, okay, now this is expensive owning this, and now I need to put it on the road. So it kind of morphed into from storage to getting into a truck. I was actually working for Martin Transportation Systems at the time, running automotive freight for them. It was a good company, good job. I would love to go back to work for them someday when I can finally get things going for me. But yeah, so it just started from there, and I fell into some really good deals on some equipment and just couldn't resist.
When you look at you look at everybody's story and everybody they have an inspiration to get started for one way or the other. I think that's the first time that I've ever heard of an owner operator getting started because they was just trying to move a trailer with woodworking equipment in it. So that's very unique, man. How did you first start to get involved in the conversation around load board for it? Because I'll be honest with you, Brian, that's how I really came across you.
Was at the BCS, yeah. So if anybody out there is new, they already know the story. You buy a truck, you get your authority, and you go to hit the load boards, and you make phone calls, and everybody tells you no. And I had that same problem. Everybody told me no, and that pretty well pissed me off. I've been in the industry since 1998. Who are you to tell me no, right? And it came to find out. I started asking people, well, why are you telling me no? And then they started talking about the reasons, and it's the fraud this and the fraud that, and it's like, okay, what are we doing to stop the fraud? Because the fraud is literally affecting me and my company and my ability to load my truck. So what's everybody doing? We're talking about it, but what are we doing
Yeah.
about it? So then I started doing some research online. That's how I came across the Broker Carrier Summit. I started reading about it, and I'm thinking, if I go and meet these people in person, the ones that say no to me, once they meet me in person, they're not going to be able to say no. I was that confident, cocky, if you want to call it that way. But literally, I had a list of brokers that had been telling me no, and I went to the BCS and I went and where you at? I'm finding,
Right, right.
and I sought them out and I said, listen, you're going to onboard me. Here I am. I'm right in front of you. There's no fraud. No, I don't have any inspections on my truck, but who cares? I'm standing right here. What's the problem? So I walked out of the BCS, that first one. My ROI on that first BCS was just astronomical. I spoke on one of the panels with Highway, if you will recall, and I was like a rock star after that. It was just, I mean, I was the amount of people that came up to me afterwards and was speaking to me was just insane. I had never had that much attention in my life. It was the launching pin for me and my company was that first BCS. I was only 6 months old on my authority.
Yeah.
So every contact I made was just instrumental in helping me load my truck and keep the truck rolling.
But the crazy thing is every day that you stay, that you have your truck parked and you're engaged in non-revenue revenue generating activities, we're talking about $800,000, $900,000 a day that you could potentially lose in overall revenue. So you stepping out and saying, "Hey, I'm going to come down and I'm going to show my face at this event," versus someone that wouldn't. You took a gamble. That was a very, very
I did.
calculated risk.
I did. Same with this last one. The last BCS, my truck was actually used for mock DOT inspections, and it needed work done on it. So I gave up the time where it could have been in the shop while I was at the
Yeah.
BCS, and the truck was over parked. So now it's sitting in the shop, and I'm not working. I could have done the two at the same time, but I believe in the BCS. I believe in what Dan's doing, Trey, yourself. I believe in those connections because I saw what they did for me. So if I can encourage other people to come, I do. If I call a broker up on the phone and he sounds like a good old boy from the South, you can tell he's a
Mhm.
small guy. He's only got two or three people working for him. I'm inviting this guy to the BCS. Same with if you tell me no, and if you tell me no, it's because it goes back to that cockiness I had before. Because once you meet me, I'm confident you're not going to be able to
Yeah.
resist onboarding me. So any brokers that are still telling me no today, I'm sending them emails and saying, come on, you need to come to the BCS because once you meet me, we're gonna connect.
I'm glad that you offered your truck up too, man, during that inspection, because a lot of brokers that are out there that are listening to this or just out there, period, don't even know what a level one inspection is. They say, "Hey, you know what? We can't use you. Don't have enough inspections." They don't know or understand the reason behind it.
Right.
And me and you even had a conversation to where I think that we're moving so far now that technology is going to start taking a place because. I mean, I literally can pull a camera up and see where your truck's been to really understand what that is. So the whole inspection, not using you because you had an inspection is one of those. I think it's almost a lazy way of just kind of not wanting to do business with somebody. I know you brought up a great point when you were on stage, and I really enjoyed this connection that you made. It's like, all right, does anybody know what's on this bill of lading? And you put a bill of lading on the screen, and everybody, people were guessing, and you gave up $20. I'm gonna give $20 to anybody who guessed what this is, right? And somebody guessed it's something to do with ammunition. He was like, "You're close enough." Okay, guess what? It's a rocket launcher, right? But he was like, "You know what? I had a broker that allowed me to haul rocket launchers, but then there was the same, 6 months ago or whatever time frame that looked like. I had another broker that told me I'm not good enough to haul automotive parts. Like, what's the deal with that?" So it's a flaw in the system, just like you were saying.
Actually, the automotive parts were 2 weeks after I hauled.
Even worse.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So the broker had this draconian policy of you have to haul 3 loads within 3 months because it's high risk and we just don't trust you, right? And so it's like I sent them the POD because I was that mad. I'm like, really, I've hauled enough loads for you guys. I've never been late, never had any issues.
Yeah.
They just considered the automotive parts as high value or high risk, right? So I shot them the POD and said, I can haul AH-64 Apache rocket launchers, but I can't haul starters and alternators for cars. Where's the disconnect here?
Right.
If I was the fraudster and you had a 3-rule policy, I'd haul 3 loads and steal the 4th one. What difference does it make?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it was a perfect example, and I appreciate you going through that. Now I want to shift a little bit because I really want to kind of dig into the load board fraud, because if folks that are listening, this can definitely help out the small operators and how to spot those things are. And you're very, very keen on spotting those little nuances. One of the things is for folks who might not realize how bad it's gotten. Can you break down exactly what load board fraud looks like today?
From a carrier's perspective, I would say probably 1 out of 10 loads I find on the board, if not more, is fraudulent.
And what
And
makes
this
you
is especially true on DAT. Truckstop, I can honestly say I have not found a fraudulent load on Truckstop. That's not to say that there isn't any. It's just I'm mostly probably 85-90% of my time I'm on DAT. I've had conversations with DAT. I've had conversations with Truckstop, and they're good people, and they're listening, to me. They're listening to others. They're taking that feedback and they're looking at changes. But the bottom line is the brokers are doing things that are making it easy for the fraudsters to steal carrier identity. Now, remember, that's where the fraud starts, is with stealing the carrier identity. Once they've stolen the carrier identity, then they can defraud the broker and steal the load.
right.
So it always starts with stealing carrier identity. And so I feel it's very important for these brokers to have as much value in protecting carrier identity as I do in protecting my own identity, right? So some of the things that the brokers are doing still today that just baffles me is, and I mentioned this at the BCS, is you wake up in the morning and your inbox is full of, hey, connect with us. We're a broker, connect with us. Here's the link, connect with us. Well, guess what? Once I start trusting that, the fraudsters take advantage of it and do it too. So I wake up in the morning and I got 20 emails in my inbox to connect with these brokers, and 7 of them are fraudulent, right? So I don't know why brokers are still sending out these email blasts saying, hey, connect with us. They need to stop doing that. Don't onboard someone until they're on the phone with you. The other thing is the PDF packets. We have Highway, we have My Carrier packets, we have RMIS. Those are the 3 main ones for onboarding. Why are we still using PDFs? Because every fraudster out there is using a PDF. They'll send you a fake PDF. They'll get that carrier to fill it out. And now you've just handed over to that fraudster your
all
entire carrier identity.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these fraudsters don't have access to Highway. They don't have access to RMIS, My Carrier package. They don't have access to that. So, when I look at the load board and I see all of this, and it goes back to also the brokers being very click happy. I mentioned to you most of the loads that I found, they're all on DAT. So there's a scam where these fraudsters are doing these phishing emails to these brokers saying, you got a bad review on DAT, click here to see it or whatever, log in to see it. And they're unknowingly handing over their login information to the fraudsters. And I made the comment at the BCS that if I was a broker and I had a room full of people, 100 people, I would stand up and say, everybody shut up, listen, and make everybody look at me and say, if you receive an email from DAT and you open it and click on a link, there's the door, you're gone. They would be terminated immediately. Every single email coming in from DAT needs to be screened by your compliance and your safety team, because that's how they're stealing the broker's login in order to put these fake loads on the boards.
So when you look at that too, just what are some of the most common scams that you see across the load boards right now? And you could talk about the specific red flags that carriers should look for, but what are some of those scams that you see?
So the fraudsters got two things going on, and there's a subcategory underneath the other one. So the first one is they're trying to steal carrier identity, or alternatively, they've already stolen carrier identity and they actually have a load and they want you to move it, and that broker's going to pay them, and then that carrier is just never going to get paid, or they're going to have that carrier cross dock that load somewhere and steal the freight. So they've either stolen carrier identity already, or they're trying to steal carrier identity. Those are the two games that I've seen out here, and it's really common sense. I mean, you look down in the comments section. I sent you a couple screenshots of some fake loads. You look down in the comment section, and it'll say email only. These guys don't speak English. They don't want you on the phone with them because your red flag, your spidey sense is going to go off, right? So it's email only. And if you look at the email, there's always going to be a mistake, a deliberate mistake in that email that's posted in the comment section. So DAT has AI software that scrubs the comments, and it's looking for a legit email. So as long as they take the .com and put a comma in
Put a
there,
comment in there,
or
yeah.
maybe instead of the com, it'll be C space OM. If they put a space in there, then the AI system that's scrubbing it doesn't recognize it as an email that someone has tricked. We all do it with phone numbers on different platforms, or you type out your phone number and one or two numbers. You'll type out the word two TWO instead of the number two. Is to get past those scrubs. And so, anytime you see an email only, or you see a mistake in an email, major red flag. That's definitely a fraudulent load.
You know, the funny thing is too, is when you combine that comma and then you go back up to the rate on on the load, like you'll have a load that's paying like $3,000 to go, you know, 400, 500 miles. And then you look down to the bottom and then the email's got a comma in that email where it's email only.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. If you're going to post a load like that, you think that that's only going to go by email only?
Yeah. So, people talk about the price of the load. I sent you some that are like the lane rate's paying 1,000, the load's posted for 2,500. So when I see a load that's paying way more than the lane rate, it isn't necessarily a red flag for me, because maybe it's a round trip, maybe it's something special, a hazmat load, or maybe they need a lift gate or a pallet
Sure.
jack, or
Sure.
maybe it's multi-stop. So the price in and of itself doesn't send up a red flag. It sends up a yellow caution flag. It makes me look a little deeper. But just in and of itself, it's not enough for me to say it's fraudulent. But I will say every fraudulent load that I've seen is typically way above the lane rate. But some of these fraudsters I've seen have gotten really, really clever, and they're posting it for the lane rate. And I interact with them. I'll send them an email because I'm trying to figure out what their game is. And I'll ask them, you got to haggle with them just like you would a normal broker. And so I haggle with them and say, hey, the low's 3,500. Will you do 36? And they'll shoot me back and say, no, this is firm. They figured out our language. They know our language that we use in the industry.
So, in your experience, there are certain load boards that are more susceptible to fraud than others. You know, you mentioned a couple of them just a few minutes ago. What is that keeps those outside of that? Hey, there's an AI scrubber on there, but then you've got the other ones like 123 load boards. You've got obviously you got trucker path. There are other load boards out there. What is the difference? What keeps those load boards from being susceptible to that same fraud as well?
I would say DAT is the number one load board, that we have out there. It's the most popular. It's got the most loads. It's the ones everybody's using. I had 123. I've had Doft. I've had some other load boards. I wasn't happy with them, so I've narrowed it down to Truckstop and DAT.
But was there
Um,
fraud there though? Did you notice that fraud on those smaller?
I never ran into it on those boards, but again, I wasn't on those boards like I am on DAT and Truckstop. Um, so I can't speak on that because I just don't know. But I do know that it's prevalent on DAT, And I do know that I've made contacts with the people in DAT, and changes are coming. They've told me I can't speak about it yet, but I do know
Sure.
changes are coming. And I do know I made a post on LinkedIn that kind of touched the nerve with both DAT and Truckstop. Um,
Touch my nerve
I'm
too.
asking for a button to be inside the load so that I can report that load as fraudulent, or maybe it's already been booked by somebody. That's just another one of my pet peeves. I get on the load board and there's 10 loads. I call on 10 loads and every one of them's taken. It's like, why is it still on the board? So we should be able to have a button that we can report the load. So I do know one of the two. I'm not going to mention which one. As I already talked about, they are absolutely going to put a button in. It's coming. It's down the road. It's not going to be like what I want. It's just going to be for fraud, reporting fraud at this time. Um, so, they're listening and they're trying to make changes and they're figuring out ways to help fight this fraud. And I got to give both DAT credit for that.
You
DAT and Truckstop.
Yeah, and I think too, man, sure you give them credit, but I got to give credit to you too, because, instead of just, hammering out that there's a problem, you're also, being an advocate for a solution. It's like, if you got a problem with something, there's only one way to be a supportive piece. It's like, hey, let me give you a solution, an alternative solution. And I think just the
Yeah.
conversation that I had with you is like, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, both those companies got some good people working there. You just have to
Yeah.
let's open up the conversation and just have a conversation like people, and not just take it from a, hey, I'm just going to talk down on these folks and just badmouth them. Let's provide them a solution that makes sense, and they'll listen.
Yeah. So they weren't in the beginning. I had to kind of force it, kind of force their hand. I think the last LinkedIn post I had like 90 some thousand impressions, 95,000 impressions, and it caused them to reach out. But it was a very productive conversation. Truckstop reached out to me specifically, had a conversation with me, and I said, "Listen, this shouldn't just be me. We need to bring in some others." So I look through the post and I look and see who had the most valuable insight
Yeah,
and
yeah.
information or whatever. And I told him we need to bring this broker in and this broker in. So I bought two brokers in on that conversation. So it was me, two brokers, and the truck stop team that was on the phone call. Nate over there, Nate.
Yeah, I love Nate.
We
Nate's a
had a
great guy.
really good conversation.
And I'm glad that took place that way, because you're passionate, Brian. We know you're passionate. You got a great voice, and you also know what's going on. But it's really important to provide solutions. Like I said, don't just sit here and have a problem for every solution. Have a solution to the problems, and that's what makes the industry better.
Yeah.
What are some practical steps carriers can take now, specifically small carriers, owner operators? Some practical steps carriers can take now to protect themselves when they're working off of low boards.
Well, first of all, the same thing that I said the brokers are doing to help facilitate the fraud.
Yeah.
The carriers are doing too. And I know in the beginning it's very hard. Now, when I set up my company because I wanted to be a JB Hunt one day. So I set it up as an LLC. I have a toll-free number for the company, but more importantly, I bought, web addresses and have email addresses with my company name in it. So if you're out there still using Gmail for a broker or a carrier, you're helping facilitate the fraud, because that's what they're using. They're using Gmail, they're using Hotmail, they're using these Yahoo, they're using the free ones because they're just going to burn the email, right? They're not out trying to buy a domain name and set up a proper email and provide all of their information, credit card information, everything. There's a link there. There's a paper trail. So by using the free email services that are out there, they just defraud people and move on, right? So if you're a carrier, you're a small carrier, you're just getting started, you're going to want to use Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo or something like that. And I can't stress it enough. Do not, under any circumstances, use a Gmail, Hotmail, or one of them free accounts. If your company name, my company name is Anchor Reliable Transport. I have it right here on my shirt. My email address is brian@anchorreliable.com. We have info@anchorreliable.com, dispatch@anchorreliable.com. Everything is at anchorreliable.com. So if your company name is ABC, freight hauling, then it needs to be at ABC Freight Hauling.
That's right.
So go ahead and go out there and buy that domain name. Go ahead and get that set up, because the brokers are going to see you as fraudulent. I'm going to see you as fraudulent. And the fraudsters are going to sit back there and say, yummy, yummy, yummy. Look, they're doing it. We can do it too.
That's right.
So that would be the first thing that I would say is get your email address set up correctly.
I mean, that's important too, just from a company branding standpoint too. You mentioned that most importantly, like you got your logo on the side of your shirt. I mean, that just goes back to just starting a basic business. Those are the things, those are the simple steps that you can take to create that brand impression. Is there a specific way you vet brokers specifically that when you speak
Yeah.
to an owner operator or a small carrier and say, hey, this is a good idea, this is what I do? Is there a specific way that you vet brokers before you agree to haul a load? What are you looking for?
So obviously, like I said, I'm looking for the ones that are trying to do a PDF packet. If you're trying to do a PDF packet, it's over with. I'm not booking with you. Driver's license issue is another one. It's out. I'm not giving you my driver's license. It goes back to what's going on with the fraud. If these brokers can't secure their own login information to DAT, do you think I want to give them my driver's license?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't.
Right.
I don't trust you to secure your own login for DAT. I'm not going to trust you to secure my driver's license in your network. So I'm not going to haul for you. But the big thing for me is I don't book loads via email. Now, Adam, I know you. If you and I were emailing back and forth, and you said, "Brian, I got a load for you, and here it is," we could book via email. But if I don't know you, I'm going to pick up that phone and I'm going to talk to you on the phone. If you're unwilling to talk to me on the phone, I'm not hauling your freight. I'm just
That's
going to
right.
move on. I don't care. It's not worth my reputation, my company's reputation, ruining everything I built. Because remember, these fraudsters, they only have to be right once, right? And they can steal a load. We have to be right all the time.
Every
So it's only
time.
going to take one time for these guys to get into my system, steal my carrier identity, and it's over with. I get a freight guard against me, and my company's over with. So it's just not worth it to me. Um, so that's where I'm at with that. If you're not willing to talk to me on the phone, I'm not booking your load. And the other part of that is I want to hear your voice. I want to know where you're from. I ask a lot of these brokers, hey, where are you guys located? Oh, you're in Indianapolis. Oh, what side of town are you on? Or in Columbus. Oh, you guys are over there by this. I can talk to them about their area and make them feel more comfortable about me. In addition, I'm pretty confident that when I book over the phone, I can get a much higher rate than I can through an email.
It's all about building relationships, man.
Yep.
It's all about building relationships. What about double brokering? Any specific advice on spotting it, on how to see it, just before you get caught up into it?
Well, I cannot say for certain if I've ever hauled a double brokered load, but I do know there are brokerages that are heavily involved in double brokering. And I'm going to just say it. It's Landstar. Landstar, you guys. I had a
Yeah.
conversation with one of the head dogs at Landstar at the most recent BCS about the double brokering. If you get on the load board and you look, you'll see loads posted by brokers that'll say no Landstar. That's because they know that
Yeah.
Landstar is likely to take that load and hand it off to another carrier or
Yeah.
whatever. I talked to a broker the other day who actually told me they booked a load with Landstar, and the load was brokered out 4 times. So they
Yeah.
brokered it to Landstar, Landstar brokered it to someone, and that person brokered it down to the actual carrier that hauled the load. He said it was the biggest mess he's ever had in his life. But again, I can beat on these guys, but at the same time, you got to give them credit where credit's due. So the gentleman I spoke to at the BCS is trying to change that. He has been brought in to help change the image of Landstar and try to make it a little bit better. And I told him that, the first thing you guys got to do is make a public announcement. We're done with double brokering. Um, so we had that discussion. We talked about some other things, but double brokering for me is when I do research on your company, DAT reviews, Google reviews, Freight Validate, whatever I'm using to run background checks. And if I hear anybody say that you double brokered, I'm not hauling your freight.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. In your opinion, though, man, how did we get here? Why has fraud gotten so out of hand from your standpoint?
Uh, I can't say for certain. I went from a company driver straight into the fraud.
Yeah.
So it was kind of I got smacked in the face with it as soon as I came in and started my own authority. I didn't realize how bad it was and prolific when I started my company, or maybe I would have put the brakes on and done something else. I don't know, but you know, carriers will say it's the broker's fault, and the brokers will say it's the carrier's fault. And I'd have to say, to be fair and honest, it's probably somewhere in between. It's half and half. Carriers are responsible for the things we're doing. Like I said, if you're a carrier and you're running a Gmail or Hotmail account, same way if you're a broker and you're doing it. There's things that we are doing that we are unknowingly facilitating the fraud.
So what can load boards themselves be doing better to protect carriers in that case?
Yeah. So I mentioned the button in the load. And if there's a button in the load that I can report the load is fraudulent, it should freeze that load so no one else can, have access to it until they've had a chance to vet it. That's one thing. The other thing is, and I've had this conversation with both DAT and Truckstop, is one reason we have the comment section where the fraudulent emails are going is because they don't have enough information in the load itself. So if you go onto the load board, and let's say the load's picking up in Indianapolis and is going down to Atlanta, and it has a stop in Louisville and another stop in Nashville, the load board does not allow that broker to put those multiple stops. So they have requested the comment section so that they can put that information in there, because when the driver is booking the load, they're going to need it. Well, my question is, why can't a broker put that in? If the load has 4 stops, let them put it in exactly what the stops are. It's going to give us an accurate mileage. It's going to give us an accurate rate. And it's going to help me make the determination whether or not I want to haul that load. So we can get rid of the comment section, or just about completely eliminate the comment section, if the brokers are able to put in all of the information. And then we have to make sure DAT and Truckstop, the load boards, have to make sure that the brokers are doing it. So one of my arguments too was, why are we posting loads without a rate? If you're $500 underneath the lane rate, underneath everybody else, I'm not going to call you. Why are you wasting my time making me call you to ask you what the lane is?
Right.
It's a $900 lane. You got it posted for $500, and I call you and you tell me it's firm. It's a paper product, and there's no extra money in it. Well, why don't you put that on the load? You're wasting my time. So loads out here are going fast. We all know there's more trucks than there is more freight. So if I'm spending 15, 20 minutes on the phone with you calling about a stupid load that I would never haul in the first place, you're just going to really make me mad, because I've just burned up all my time on that load. And God knows how many other good loads I just missed out on over your load that ain't paying crap. So, and they do it on purpose. They put out there no information because they want them phone calls. They want to be able to try to talk you into it. And I'd like to see that stop. And I think some things are coming down the pike, where the load boards are actually going to make a stance, and then they're not going to have a choice.
That'd be good to see. What advice would you give to newer owner operators who might not know how to spot those scams? What is some advice that you would give to them?
Yeah. So we talked about this at the BCS. And if you're an owner operator and you're afraid that you may be dealing with a fraudulent situation, you've got to find a buddy. You've got to find a broker buddy that can help you. I've got several. I met them through the BCS, you and others. I can pick up the phone or send you guys a text and say, my spidey senses, the back of my neck is tingling. Something's wrong with this broker. Here's their MC number, run them. And you guys have provided me with so much valuable information. It's not even funny, to help me keep me and my carrier identity safe. And I think the guys that I've connected with feel the same way as me. We've got to protect carrier identity. So brokers need to have those buddy carriers and allow them to call and say, hey, can you run this MC number? What are you seeing on their insurance? You got an insurance that's every 2 months it's being revoked or canceled, and then all of a sudden now it's sitting in a trust. It sends up a major red flag.
For all the owner operators and small carriers that are listening to this call right now, if you feel that you've been a victim of freight fraud, make sure that you report that to the Office of the Inspector General. That is going to be on your screen. It's super important that we get that out there. The proper reporting mechanisms are also important too. So, because obviously, Brian, this. If you get caught in fraud, and all of a sudden you haul a load, it's not getting paid for. Boom, now what? There's so many different elements and components of fraud. Whether you're not getting paid, whether it's short pay, there's so many different ways of getting held up into that. Being vocal about this takes a lot of guts, and that's the one thing I commend about you, and that's the reason why you and I have such a great, have a great relationship. What keeps pushing you forward though, and trying to bring this awareness to the issue though? At some point, you got to say, man, I'm tired.
Yeah. Yeah, that's happened many times. And we just had this conversation about Amazon. A
Yeah,
lot of the loads that I find on DAT that are fraudulent, they're trying to steal Amazon Relay
the
accounts.
relay. Yeah,
So, you reach out to the fraudster, and the first thing they want you to do is they send you a link to download the Amazon Relay app. And then after you download the Relay app, they want you to hand over your login credentials so that they can, quote unquote, get you approved, through the rock. Well, they can't get you approved through the rock. The whole idea is to steal your carrier information and be able to haul Amazon loads or steal Amazon freight, right? So I've reached out to Amazon time and time and time again, and I can't get anybody. If I got a fraudster emailing me wanting information, um, I need to be alerting them. I need to be talking to them in real time as this is happening in real time. And you send them an email, you tell them, there's a fraud situation going on, and you might get an email 2 or 3 or 4 weeks later.
Yeah.
It just it frustrates me that I feel like I'm trying to fight the fraud. I'm trying to stop it in real time as it's happening, and I can't get people to play ball. I can't get the brokers to play ball. I can't get the other carriers to play ball. I can't get people to help me. Let's stop it, not just before it happens, but if it's slipped through while it happens. Instead of saying, hey, I did my screening, I'm good. It doesn't involve me.
Right.
Let's get involved. But I agree with you. There are times where I get so frustrated. There are days where I have found so many fraudulent loads on the board that I spend my time calling DAT, trying to lock the load down, or the broker's account down, I should say, and then emailing the fraudster that I don't end up hauling a load that day. I end up sitting in the truck
Mm.
because I spent so much time with these emails and phone calls that I don't book my truck. Um, and it does get under my skin sometimes. I'm losing money, but at the same time, I feel like it's the right thing to do. And it goes back to what I said in the beginning, Adam. When someone tells me no, that's the worst thing you can tell me. Don't tell me no. I've been doing this a long time. I got a good truck. I know what I'm doing. Don't tell me no. I can't haul your freight.
That's right.
So
That's right. Yeah. What has advocating? Well, how has advocating for safer load boards changed your overall outlook? I mean, do you have a different outlook for the industry and where it goes, just based on the time that you've been around?
yeah. So coming into the BCS, I was like every carrier. The brokers are evil. Um, all they want to do is take our money. They don't
Yeah.
give a crap if I feed my kids or not. And I left the BCS with more broker friends than carrier friends. Um, it wasn't what I thought, and I've had brokers invite me in, and they pulled the curtain back. Just before I came here to do this interview with you, I was up at Fitzmark.
Hmm.
So I was walking around Fitzmark, talking to them. They were showing me behind the scenes, what they're doing, and it is that openness that has absolutely changed not only my opinion of brokers, but of what they're doing to try to stop the fraud themselves. I don't agree with them just stopping carriers from onboarding. I think it needs to go a little bit further than just saying, "Hey,
Sure.
we're not going to work with you." I think they could do more, but they've taken a protectionist stance, and that protectionist stance goes back to exactly what I said before when they took the protectionist stance against my company and basically said through not booking my truck that I was part of the fraud. That's what really got under my skin. But the BCS absolutely opened up my eyes to the brokers. The LinkedIn post has really opened up dialogue with DAT and Truckstop, and it's given me faith that there are people out there with the similar mindset as me that really want to try to stop this. Not just I'm just going to put up a shield and protect myself. How do I protect the next guy? Because that's what it's really about. How do I protect me, but also how do I protect the next guy?
So what's up? What's next for you in terms of advocacy or education for the trucking industry? Do you have anything that you're looking to do differently? Maybe something from your end.
So I do have my company YouTube channel. I haven't had a lot of time to do anything with it, but I do want to put stuff on there. I want to do interviews with brokers. I do know that there's a local brokerage, R2X, where my truck
R2X.
was parked. They actually want to come out. Dietrich wants to come out in the truck with me on a load. So we're probably going to make some videos of that. Um, and of course, LinkedIn is invaluable with putting out information and seeing what's going on. But for me, I'm going to continue going to the BCS. I know the next one's down in Orlando in October. I'll be there for that. And I'm going to try to go to as many events as I can to meet as many people. For me, it doesn't just stop at brokers. That's not the goal. The goal has always been to have those direct ship customers where I'm actually working directly with the shipper or the receiver and moving freight for them. So a lot of carriers might have a 50 50-50 mix. 50% of their loads are brokered out and
Yeah.
50%, are direct to the customer. I'd like to get to that point one day, but right now I'm still 100% on the boards, and until I can kind of get some help in the truck and get some more free time, it's really hard for me. If I wasn't on the phone all day doing these fraudulent loads, and that's something I need to tell the carriers. If you see a fraudulent load on DAT, you need to call DAT and lock that load down. Um, Call them and tell them what the load is. Call them and tell them what the lane is, the MC number, and they'll pull it up while you're on the phone, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, that's they can tell in their system." So we need to be reporting that. If you see a fraudulent load and you just skip over it, you're contributing to the fraud. You need to pick up the phone, make that phone call, and stop that so that another carrier doesn't get taken advantage of.
Right, right. Brian, you mentioned something, about the BCS, how you're involved, you're like, "Hey, I'm gonna be at the next one." But you notice there's a lot of carriers that don't, right? That don't show up for these events and don't show up for networking events. Can you just hit on the importance just from what you've seen? Because like you said, you admitted, you're like, "Hey, I wasn't that guy until I, walked in the first time and I was like, wow, this is all right." Talk about a little bit, just take a few minutes and talk about the importance of getting out as a owner operator or as a small carrier, the importance of getting out networking and really going out to these events, these trucking conferences.
Well, for me, it's just been completely invaluable. So I meet somebody at the BCS who knows somebody who knows somebody. So even though I wasn't able to get onboarded, I'll just throw a company name out there. Let's say it was Nolan Transport. Let's say Nolan Transport wasn't at the BCS. I haven't been able to get onboarded with them. But I went to the BCS and I start talking to people, and I'll ask them, "Hey, do you know anybody over at Nolan?" "Yeah, I happen to know somebody that used to work for me that's over there." "Hey, would you give them a call and see if you can help me get onboarded with them?" That was invaluable to me. I didn't stop at just the broker that was at the
Mhm,
BCS. I
mhm.
asked, "Do you know someone here?" And I've done it with you before as well. "Hey, do you know someone over here?" I was told no, and you already know how I am. I don't like being told no, especially when I know what I do,
Yeah,
and I'm not part of the fraud. So, do you know someone? Do you know someone who knows someone? So the BCS and these events where you can meet these brokers and you can meet other carriers that have these contacts, and you can make that relationship with that one person that might help you get to that next person, and so forth. It's just invaluable. I have a list of phone numbers in my phone with people's names and what brokers that they're with, what carrier name that they are with it, so that I can just pull them up and send them a text message and say, "Hey, you either have a load that I want, or do you know someone over here, because I have an issue." And everybody has been awesome if they have the free time helping me out. It's been crazy. I mean, like I said, my opinion of brokers going into the summit versus coming out has just been complete 180.
man, glad that you had that experience too. And as we wrap up, I'm gonna ask you a couple other questions just to kind of bring this all together. What was the absolute worst scam that you've ever seen in your time of the aha moments of what's going on these load boards?
Um, I wouldn't know what the absolute worst scam is. I would say one of the newest ones that I'm dealing with right now that I'm seeing is these fraudulent brokers will say they have a high value load, a government load. And of course, we all know with a government load, you're going to have to go through more background checks, right?
Mhm.
So they're going to be asking for your W-9. They're going to be asking for your authorities letter, your NOA, your COI. They're going to be asking for all this information. And by the way, we need the owner's driver's license. We need a utility bill with
Yeah.
the company address on it. This was their game. This is the most recent email from the fraudsters that I was getting, and they realize that with government loads, there's more criteria that you need to send to be vetted, and so a carrier might be willing to go ahead and give that to them.
Yeah.
But the at the BCS, and I talked about this on stage at the most recent one. When I left the last broker carrier summit down in Dallas, I went out to my truck and I went to book a load, and I saw the first load and it's like no good, second load no good, third load, man, that's a fraudulent load. So I called on it. I just what I do. I was calling the load. I called DAT, locked it down, or emailed on it. So I emailed the fraudster on the load, and I have a way of getting that Raycon from that fraudster, and I did. I got them to give me the RC, which had the shipper's name on it, and I called the shipper and I said, "Hey guys, You need to sit down. I'm about ready to tell you something that's about to freak you out. So I told them, hey, your load's about ready to get stolen. I don't know what freight they have. I don't know if the load's getting stolen or whether they just want me to move it. So I told them your load's about ready to get stolen. You need to call the broker, and you need to have that broker call me. So they called their broker, and I get a fantastic phone call. This lady, she was freaking out. Why are you calling my shipper? What is going on? Why are you saying this? And she's just rattling on.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me after 90 seconds or 2 minutes of her rattling. I was like, wait a minute, what was the name of your company? She told me the name, and I'm like, oh, can you go get John or Paul? Because I just had lunch with them yesterday. And she's like, wait, how do you know the owners? And I'm like, well, I just met them at the Broker Carrier Summit. She puts me on hold. She's like, you hold on right now. She puts me on hold. She disappears. She comes back, and she's like, I was told whatever you say to listen. So it went from freaking out to, she realized that I had her best interest.
Yeah.
I was trying to protect their load and trying to protect their customer. I ended up hauling that load for them. They didn't trust anybody else. And I was actually able to smooth the relationship over with her customer because they were freaking out at this point. It was a new customer for them. And I went in there and I told them, oh, we do this all the time. That's why we work closely together. And they're like, oh, okay. So they were pretty cool about it. Once I kind of made it a non-issue that this is what we do. That's why we have these relationships.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome, man. Where can people connect with you and stay updated on what you're doing? I know you mentioned a YouTube channel. Where can people connect?
So it's YouTube channel is Anchor Reliable Transport. And then you can also reach out to me via email at brian@anchorreliable.com. We have our website. It's just a generic website for now. We'll get that going a little bit better later on. Phone number to the company is 844-ANCHOR1, ANCHOR1. So either one of those three ways. Do check out the YouTube channel. I just spun the YouTube channel off from my personal YouTube channel to actually one for the company. So I'm, more professional about it. So I don't have very many videos, but do watch the videos that are there. Please leave your comments. Tell me what you're looking for. If you want me to post a video on fraud, we can do that. We can do interviews with brokers. I've put videos up there showing me backing up the truck. I've put videos up there of some work that was done on the truck. I think it was the hub seal. So whatever content that you're looking for, give us a message in the comments and let us know what you're looking for, and we'll see if we can do it.
I love it. I love it. Brian, man, it's been awesome and a pleasure, man. I appreciate you joining us today and taking out your time. I know it's been a crazy last couple of days for you between the summit to, getting the truck ready to hit back on the road, but I definitely appreciate that. And just like I said, man, keep up the good fight. You're doing a great job. And your name is ringing bells, man. Keep those bells ringing because it's ringing bells for the right reasons. But my folks that joined us today on this episode, listen, do me one favor before you do anything else. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, send this out to anybody that would be beneficial in hearing this conversation. Brian, the CEO of Woodring, I'm sorry, I said your last name, CEO of Anchor Reliable Transport, took the time out today and to discuss fraud, which is a very, very important discussion, very important topic, and we're looking forward to continue the conversation. So thanks for joining us today, Brian. Thanks for all the users and listeners that have taken the time out to listen to today's episode. I will see you next week and keep it up with the long haul. Take care, everybody.